Hello YouTube, I am Pinstar, and this is part 2 of my strategy and tactics series for the game of Banished. So, in our last video, just to recap, we started out here on our on a map here on hard and got ourselves up a nice little village here right in the middle of a forest, consisting of 6 houses with 6 breeding families, a gatherer's hut, a woodcutter, a forester's lodge, and a hunting cabin, along with a storage barn and a stockpile, and we are on the uptrend with our food here. In this video, I'm going to be taking you in the next phase of our village's development, and that is namely the importance of tools, clothing, and education, in that order. So, before we unpause here, let's get some stuff planned out here. Now, right now I'm sitting on 7 tools, and you might think, alright, I'm on 7 tools, that'll last me a while. No, it's not. No, it's not. The best time to get your blacksmith and prevent a tool apocalypse, or rather a lack of tool apocalypse, is to build it sooner than you need it. Now, after doing some play testing on my builds here, I've discovered that rather than sitting down and sitting on this and letting some resources accumulate, now what you really want to do is get started on that blacksmith as soon as possible. So we're going to do just that. So first things first, I've had some people asking me where the heck am I going to be placing this so as to manage the walking times compared to the forest area times. And I can tell you right now, I am not going to be building anything else inside this forest except for the roads. Other than extending those roads out when I need them, that's it, because I don't want to take up any more tree space. And also in this video, I'm going to be clearing out some of this debris here to let even more trees grow. So, as I mentioned in our first video, which I highly recommend watching first if you have not done so already, is we are going to be having our city center in the north. So it makes logical sense that we are going to be expanding northward and having our blacksmith there. So we're going to grab our little road here and send it northwards. Now, I'm not actually going to be placing it all the way there, but I like to have it pre-drawn. And this is actually part of the flexibility with this particular crossroads build, is that as you go expanding elsewhere, you already have these little road leads here that can just add on to them, and boom, it's part of a road network here. I want to go through the mountain, or maybe over here for a mine, or down here for some farmers fields, whatever you want to do, boom, it's ready there for you. Now, to also further frame myself here, since we know this is the northernmost border of our forest that we care about, and we certainly don't want to cut down any of these trees that we don't have to, I'm going to extend this dirt road out to make another little set of crossroads right here. And this little platform is going to be sort of the border between our forest area and our city center proper. And so, what I'm going to do is grab our blacksmith here and place it down right here. Now, the other thing I'm going to do, and the other thing I'm going to be building after this blacksmith, is going to be our tailor. So I'm going to line up our tailor right up here. And last but not least, to help sort of prep this, and you'll see this put to use in due time, is another stockpile. And this is going to be, it's technically going to be a permanent stockpile, but its use for the moment is going to be more temporary. So I'm going to place it right here. Again, I'm a big fan of 6x6, but actually, you know what? I'm going to trim it back 5x6. Keep it in line with the width of the tailor's shop to keep things nice and even. Okay, so got that all set. Now, let's talk workers. Now, right now, I've got no laborers. I've got no builders. Nothing's going to get done. Or if anything's going to get done, it's going to be done by a stray idler. It's going to take forever, and we're going to be in tool apocalypse before that. So we need to actually get some serious workforce working on getting that blacksmith up and running. And the blacksmith is obnoxious for a couple of different reasons. One, its materials are a bit tough. I mean, we just grabbed a bunch of stone and used it all up, and it wants 55 more stone, which is, at this stage of the game is quite a lot. 32 iron, not so much a problem just because we kind of grabbed it because we happen to be sitting on it. But also 32 logs, which is actually more of a problem than it looks because it's also going to be competing with the woodcutter who's going to be consuming our supply of logs on a regular basis, while our forester will not be producing them because I don't want them to cut just yet. So where are we going to get these workers from? Well, a couple of different places. First, our foresters, there's actually not that much open space right now for them to plant. There's a few nooks and crannies that little shoots could go in there. But until we get rid of these rocks and iron here, there's not going to be a lot of need for that. As such, we don't need 4 foresters at the moment. We will in the long term, but right now we're going to pull off 3 of them. We're going to leave 1 forester in here so he can bounce around and fill in all the nooks and crannies while the rest of their buddies are up here helping with the blacksmith. Now, yeah, 3 laborers is good. Still not good enough for me. I want this thing built and fast, and also means getting resources harvested fast. Now, as I mentioned before, our food is on the uptick. I can tell you right now, yeah, we're only at 272 food. That's dangerously low for a lot of people. But for me, I know it's going to be more than enough, and that's soon going to have a 0 added to the end of it, and it'll be 2,720 food. If we keep our max gatherers and max hunters. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to pull back 2 of our gatherers. The reason why I am pulling back 2 gatherers and keeping the 3 hunters is twofold. First off, for the gatherers, there is a finite number of gatherables to be harvested, and once all those are harvested, the rest of the gatherers just go idle and become laborers. Now, you might say, oh, well, why don't you just do that and then use that to get the building going? Well, the reason why I don't like part-time idlers working on my stuff, especially when it's very time sensitive, is that the part-time idlers will go off, do a few things related to their idle things, and then suddenly a gatherable will be spawning and they'll walk all the way over here, grab it, and then realize, oh, all right, I'm done with gatherables, let's go back up here. Oh, there's something else spawned, let's go back down here. Too much walking. I like dedicated laborers and builders more than I like part-time gatherers. The other reason is with hunting, it's still a little nebulous, but I want more venison than I get the roots and berries and such, because venison is worth more for trading, and that also gets us more leather, which will mean more hide coats next year, which we're also going to be working on soon. So, okay, so I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, where I plop down just 1 builder to get the road network going. And because I am not ready, I don't have enough stuff to finish our blacksmith here, I'm actually going to pause it. I am a big advocate of pausing your buildings until you have all the requisite materials. Here's the reason. Let's say I unpause this and I have my laborers bringing stuff to it. They bring the logs to it, and they bring the iron to it, and they're bringing some of the stone to it, but oh, we're out of stone. So let's say I start harvesting stone. One of my guys grabs 1 unit of stone and runs it over here to the stockpile. Well, my laborer's going to be like, oh, there's stone, let's grab it, and they'll pick up 1 unit of stone and run it up to the building and deposit it, and it's horribly inefficient. By having all of the materials in stock, when it comes time to unpause the building and have all your laborers grab materials and bring it up there, they will always grab as much as they can carry because there's enough stuff there for them to get. So it just makes things a lot more efficient in the long run. So that's why I do what I do. So let me quit yapping here for the time being, and let me put all these newfound laborers to work. And what I need is stone. And what I want is stone within here. This will be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Ha 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 ha. So where are you at? We're going to go ahead and tell them to get that stone as soon as possible while our builder starts working on our road here. Now the other reason I put the the stockpile up here is not so much for the stone, because I mean, even all this stone that we're harvesting here is going to go to this stockpile, and it's not that far of a trip to get up to the blacksmith. And the same goes true with this iron. I mean, later on when we want a little bit more iron, is go right here anyway. The reason why I have this stockpile up here, at least right now, is for wood. We're going to be needing to get more wood harvested and clear cut from here, and it's certainly not going to come from here. And I actually want a separate pile of wood to be used for building, so they're not fighting with the woodcutter for their supply of wood. They probably will end up fighting anyway, but whatever. Okay, stone's coming in really quickly. How much did we need here? 50, 55. All right, we have enough. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to pause yet because now we're short on logs, but I was anticipating that. So what we're going to do up here is do some harvesting of the trees. And rather than cancel the collect stone, because I do want them to eventually grab that, I'm just going to increase priority here so that they pause the stone for the moment and just go and get some trees. And we just want them to start backfilling up the... Oh, for Pete's sake. Died in childbirth? Really? We're at the phase of the thing where we need as many... Razafragan. Okay, sorry. I was generally counting on all of our villagers here, but this is going to put a little bit of a damper on things. Namely, this is the... this is our wave of babies here, and normally the wave is 6 babies long, but I think with that death in childbirth, we are going to have a bit fewer, and we're also going to be down a person since we had to use up a laborer to replace that. But we just got one of the original children aging up, so no big setback. We can still make this work for us. Okay, so we got our people up here. Grabbing the logs here. Had to be the very first baby. Dies in childbirth. Okay, yeah. And alright, so here we have the woodcutter. Plenty of wood here, but they're chewing through that our supply of logs pretty quickly. So it's going to be kind of racing against both the needs of this building and also the needs of the woodcutter. And once winter passes, if they're still persistently grabbing too many logs, I might go ahead and pause the woodcutter just temporarily so we can make sure that those logs make their way into the proper hands. Because see, look, we're already chewing through our tools here, and we don't want that to linger too much longer. Okay, so 37 stored logs. I'm going to go ahead and unpause this, and I'm going to go ahead and increase its priority. Yes, reserve of firewood is low. I get it. All right, Mr. Woodcutter, let's chill back on the wood cutting for the moment. I know. Logs are low. I probably should be cutting more logs, but you know what? I need to get this blacksmith up and running. Alright, so we've got our laborers up here. I'm going to go ahead and toss in a second builder here, just so that they can hit the ground running once they do that. Why are you guys still getting wood? I told you guys. Alright, there we go. So here's the other obnoxious part of the blacksmith, is that it only has 2 building slots here, but it needs 90 hammer swings to finish. So that means you can't even pour tons of people on it to get it finished faster. You can only put 2 people on it, and they can only build it so quickly. So it's going to be a bit of a slog to get it built, which again is why exactly we need to get it started sooner rather than later. As I mentioned before, even though we pulled off those 2 gatherers here, our food is on the upswing here, even after that wave of babies. So we're doing pretty well here. And actually, let me take a look at who the first child was. Child was Jonah Quinton. Jonah Quinton. Let's find you, Jonah Quinton. Here we are. All right. And the reason why I'm curious about this 1-year-old who's wandering around by themselves. No, I don't want to follow them. No, that's a fraggin'. Pin. There we are. Okay. We want to keep an eye on this child, and we want to pay attention to their age. The reason why we are interested in their age, all right, finally got the scaffolding down there. The reason why we are interested in their age is this very first child born in our settlement will be educated, and all children thereafter will be educated. This is why I like to prioritize a school nice and early. So our goal here is to get a school up and running, ready to go, before they turn 10. So by keeping this person up here, we ensure we keep an eye on the time, so to speak, just by taking a look at their age. Okay, blacksmith is almost done. We are down to 2 tools. I think we're actually going to be able to dodge, fingers crossed, knock on wood, we're going to be able to dodge even having a single person missing a tool, which is awesome. That is just really, really freaking awesome. You have no idea how much I like that. Because, yeah, watching someone try to do something, especially if it's the blacksmith, with no tools is just painful to watch. And I'd imagine trying to blacksmith without a tool is just painful to do and watch. Okay, so we've got our blacksmith. We don't need to fight over logs. We got plenty of logs built back up again, so we will put our woodcutter back there so we can get our firewood supply back in order. Let me slow things down here a little bit. So we've got 23 stone. We need to keep our eye on the tailor. We need more stone. Okay, so we still have some ungathered stone, so I'm going to increase priority on that stone. And while I am here, let's grab that stone. I know a little bit's outside the radius, but stone is stone is stone. We have enough iron left over, although we are going to be using up some of the iron to make our tools, which, by the way, do we have an Yes, he is educated. Good. That means extra tool production, so we're going to have our working supply real quick. Oh, we don't need these builders anymore because we are not ready to build yet. And as for our other things, yeah, it's just the stone we need. So once they get that stone, we can get started on the tailor. Now, I realized that I've just run out of stored clothing, and there's a couple reasons for this. Because we built out so aggressively, we had a big wave of childbirth. A wave of childbirths has a way of depleting your coats. That's because that the moment a child is born, they take a pair of clothing for themselves, because obviously they are not born with clothing. So if you have a supply of 6 clothing and 6 kids get born, boom, you have a supply of 0 now. Luckily, it is early summer, so we don't need to worry about people, even if someone's clothing goes ragged at this point, we don't need to worry too much about people being without clothing, and which effectively just keeps them permanently in their house, burning up firewood if they have ragged clothing. That'll happen in the wintertime, but my goal here is to get this thing built before the wintertime. And we should have plenty of time to do that. Once these guys get a little bit more stone. Yeah, 48. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and unpause it because they're going to be clearing some of the stone just as part of the natural course of building the thing. So 3 builders, and let's increase priority here. Make sure that they're working on that and not dilly-dallying around with the stone. Great. That's looking good. They're good doing that. Plenty of stone and iron here for later on, and my food has just crested 1,000, even with only 2 gatherers and 3 hunters on there. So yeah, don't be afraid to pull some people off of food when time is of the essence and you need people working on other things, and food is not the immediate crisis. That being said, keep an eye on it and don't neglect to put it back when you start needing it. But our population's not going to grow so quickly that we're going to completely run out of food in a heartbeat. It'll start dripping down before before that happens, and we'll be able to catch it and reassign people on there as needed. But again, we don't need to worry about that too much. And the other thing you also want to be careful of is if you're making too much food, your storage barn could get maxed out. I mean, we're at 1,200 food, and we're only at 30% full, give or take. If we had these cranking at max, give it a couple of years and this thing would be completely full up, which is annoying, especially if you don't have your market yet. Okay, so building that, got our stone delivering the iron. Ooh, we actually might be a little short on iron, so let me make sure we do a little iron gathering here. I mean, this place is lousy with it, but our blacksmith has been eating it up, which actually reminds me, we've got 22 tools. We don't need a blacksmith anymore. It seems really weird, even though we just killed ourselves trying to get this blacksmith up and running before the tool apocalypse. We only really need a little bit. I'm not a big fan of trading away my iron tools, at least not in the short term. All right, so let me quit yapping here for a second and focus. Okay, here we go. So we got to just increase priority on this iron, so we can get that in there, so we can get our Tailor built. Because yeah, that's the only bottleneck is the iron. So yeah, do a little bit more clearing of the land there, get ourselves some iron. Yeah, but yeah, in the short term, the difference between 22 tools, 12 tools, 122 tools is there is no difference. All that matters is 0 tools or not 0 tools. And just having a little bit of a buffer to make sure that you don't slip into 0 tools too quickly. Which is exactly what we have here. 22 tools is all we really need right now. When that dips below 10, I'll toss a blacksmith back in there and let them hammer out another dozen or two, and they'll be good from there. All right, so we've got our Tailor going here, and the same principle is going to apply to our Tailor. It's a little bit of a delay because I had hit that iron bottleneck, but we should have our clothing produced and ready before winter hits, unless we have a super early winter. But that should not be a problem. Luckily here, we only need 80 hammer swings, and we have 3 people to do it. So the Tailor's a lot less obnoxious in terms of actually physically getting it built. But we are going to want a Tailor employed ASAP. Are you educated? Yes, good. That's Tailor's another profession where having an educated worker is really, really good. Now, how much leather do we have to work with? We have 16 plus, I think they just grabbed a packet themselves, which should be 10. Yep, so 26. So we, plenty of coats. Plenty of coats, plenty of tools. We're looking good, as long as they can just hurry up with those. Oh, that's the other thing. I'm leaving this storage cart here, mainly because it's a nice, handy place to have it. For them to drop off their iron tools, drop off their coats once they finish with them. And yeah, okay, so yeah, I kind of wanted to have my coats done before the snow hit, but the person's working through them as fast as they can, and anyone who is minus a coat should be able to grab them pretty quickly. So we don't need to worry about people freezing to death on us all of a sudden. Okay, so that takes care of part 2. Yeah, here we are. Here's our surplus. So part 3, we are looking at our child here. They are 5. We want to make sure to get that schoolhouse built. That's going to be the 3rd item here for that. So here we need 50 wood, 16 stone, and 16 iron. So let's grab a little bit more iron here while we are at it. We'll grab the rest of that later. We have the stone, and we're going to need to designate another swath for tree harvesting, which I think I'm going to do right here. And same deal here. We want plenty of laborers to get our stuff going here. And actually, our woodcutter, having maxed out their firewood, at least for the time being, will be contributing themselves as a temporary laborer. I'm okay with this happening because at least with the woodcutter, we know exactly when they're going to come off of, when they're going to act as a laborer or not, and it's always the same place. So it's not like they're running all over creation to do one little thing. So I'm fine with them joining the temporary labor force and getting our stuff harvested faster. Now, where are we going to build this? Well, let's take a look here. My particular fondness for this placement is going to be right here next to the blacksmith. Lines up nicely, doesn't sit on any of the radii, and yeah, it just works like that. But I'm going to pause it until we get ourselves the requisite number of logs. Looks like our woodcutter is back in action. Getting more wood. And this is, again, the real reason why I put this stockpile here, is just so it can absorb the trees without them having to run all the way down here. I mean, it's not a huge difference, but it's a difference enough for me. All right, I'm going to let the tailor go ahead and do their thing until all of the leather that I've currently built up has been processed, and once I get the no resources icon, I'm just going to let them. I'm just going to pull them off of being a tailor and make them a full-time laborer. Again, don't want that whole run off to do one thing as a laborer and then get one unit of leather in there and then run all the way back to the tailors to make another coat. I'd rather just keep them off of a tailor permanently until I have the need to make more coats. Okay, we are at our supplies here, so let's go ahead and get them building and get our builders going here. The other reason I'm clear-cutting this specific area is, while I am going to eventually be developing it, I'm actually going to be developing this area a little bit more sooner, so I can just let these little shrubberies that sometimes spawn when you knock trees down grow into fresh trees again without having to put a forester there or anything like that. Alright, so we got the logs incoming. That, we've got our forester. What's our forester up to? Forester is getting something to eat. All right. And there's working. That's the other reason why I like to check in on my forester. If you have a forester's lodge set to just plant, keep an eye on some of the workers and check in on them occasionally. If it says they are working, that means there's still nooks and crannies for them to plant stuff in. And if it says that they are idling, or if they're doing something not foresting, that means they've run out of space. But look at all this. This one little guy here has planted all of this little area right down here, and having just cleared up this area, they now have even more space to work with in terms of planting saplings. Aha, okay, Tailor is out of stuff, so no more Tailor for now. Again, annoying that we went through all the trouble to build that big expensive building up front when in fact they're just going to be temps essentially. We'll employ full-time people there later. I'm not advocating that strategy in the long term, but in the short term, we just needed to get those things built just so we could get our stopgap measure of tools and clothing produced. All right, and Mikari is become an adult and is a laborer, so that actually means that should be the last of the children who were children when we embarked at our in the town, meaning that all future children should be starting here with Jonah Quinton, should be growing up and ready to be educated. And looks like we're going to be finishing this schoolhouse just in time. We're going to want to assign a teacher there. That way, I mean, the teacher won't do anything until these people turn 10. 10 is the magic age where the game checks to see if there is an available school slot or not. And if there is, then they go to school, and if there is not, then they grow up, become an adult, and become uneducated, and we want to avoid that. Okay, so we are almost done here. Go, 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 and done. Perfect. All right, so let's toss a teacher in there. And while we are at it, now that we have a semi-permanent person working up here, I'm going to throw down one more house, and we'll do it right here. That way the teacher plus their spouse, who's probably going to be a laborer or a construction worker, will have somewhere to live. And might as well round out this little housing block. It's not super critical that they do this, but yeah, well, you know what? I like it, and you want to have people living near their jobs. And this actually is going to become a cornerstone of our strategy when we get a little bit further and we actually get some of these school-age children graduating. All right, got the scaffolding down. Got to put our builders back just so they can build it proper. And look at this, 1,500 food. I saw it at 1,700 a minute ago. So we are doing very well in terms of food and stability and population growth. As soon as that house is done, let me crank up the speed. And done. Oh, I guess we didn't need another one, or at least our teacher hasn't moved in yet. Well, they'll combine houses in due time. I bet you this would have been another breeding couple had that one person not died in childbirth. Because in other play tests, that one house makes another breeding couple, and again, we still want lots of babies. So I'm actually going to go ahead and pause it here. So we've got ourselves the next critical part of our infrastructure. We have our blacksmith, and we can just toss someone on there whenever we need more tools. We can toss in our tailor, and we have our schoolhouse. So actually, no, I jumped the gun here. There's one last thing we need to do, and that is clear out our forest. Even though we don't need this iron in here for building purposes, we still want to clean it all up. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark all this iron for gathering, have all of our people here working as laborers. I'm just going to keep it at ×10 so this video doesn't go too long. And then once we have all this land cleared, then I'll just put our people back. I'll put our foresters back in place. I'll put our gatherers back in place so we can build up our tree growth here and build up our food supply while we wait for some graduates. We're also going to be peeling off a few laborers just to slow work on a few other projects, but that will be covered in the next video. So I hope you all enjoyed this. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and comment. That definitely encourages me to keep making these. Also follow me on Twitter at Pinstar, and keep a lookout for the next video in the next couple of days. Hope you enjoyed, and have a good one. Bye.